People who are opposed to the Second Amendment aren't to be taken seriously in life, simply because you can't trust them with simple logic. The right to defend yourself exists. It's inherent to nature. It isn't up to a group of rich people that I've never met to decide whether or not I get to defend my family. Want proof? Camouflage fangs, venom claws, stingers. Just wander into the jungle. See how defenseless all of our neighbors are. They didn't ask the Jungle Congress. And let's say they strip the Second Amendment. You think the 100 million gun owners are just gonna, what, give them up willfully? Oh, shoot. Of course not. Plus, how exactly do you think the government is actually gonna enact its gun laws on people? Wait for it. Men with guns. Men with guns. They're going to send men with guns to initiate violence against nonviolent people who haven't harmed anyone. People opposed to the Second Amendment are actually for gun violence and they can't even recognize it. But you know what really bothers me is when these celebrities come out firing shots against the Second Amendment. Jennifer Aniston, Jessica Alba. Shit, I'd unload on them. Oh, and Eddie Vedder. Eddie Vedder, the lead singer of Pearl Jam. No wonder they kept calling him daughter. Man, when Eddie Vedder set his sights on the Second Amendment, I had to laugh. You'd think if anyone would want people owning guns, it'd be him. I mean, think about it. The only reason his career with Pearl Jam took off was because of that whole incident with Nirvana and the shotgun when, well, whatever. Never mind.
My fellow sheep, election season is upon us. Are you one of the 12% of Americans who still approves of our government? Then we need your help to force the other 88% into compliance. Our democracy depends on it. We're an organization called Citizens Against Too Much Unfettered Freedom, or CATMUF. CATMUF is a bipartisan flock of sheep whose goal is expanding government until nothing else remains. Because the government is here to help you. How can you help CATMUF help you? By only voting for candidates dedicated to expanding government. It's easy. You don't need to study the issues. No matter what a politician says when running for office, they're all dedicated to expanding government. And make sure you tell all your friends and family to vote for more government. Here at CATMUF, we don't care if you vote Democrat or Republican, as long as you vote for candidates committed to growing our federal family. CATMUF, because folks just aren't smart enough to handle real freedom.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network on the consciousresistance.com and solpodcast.org. So today I'm delighted to have Justin Pedini, who is a fellow New Yorker. He lives in Long Island. He's, I guess you would say, an amateur comedian, anarchist, voluntarist, advocate for free markets and freedom in general. And he's on Facebook under Justin Pedini, and he's also recently made a YouTube channel, just his name, Justin Pedini, where he posts his videos that he makes for Facebook, videos on all types of stuff, mainly like comedy type videos, political, satirical videos, just poking fun at various things, and also trying to educate at the same time. And we'll discuss a little bit about his path to anarchism and voluntarism, and what books, authors, and personalities influenced him along the way, and his interest in the deep-rooted psychological occult, which is something that I have not delved too much in, but he has, so we're going to definitely get his take on that. And he's also a big follower of Mark Passio, which he's awesome too. And I've learned a lot from him along the way. So so Justin, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thanks again for having me. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, right. It's great. I see you all around Facebook posting your videos, starting up awesome conversations, and that's what we do, right? We try to get people thinking, right, outside what they're normally comfortable with, right? And yeah,
I like to stir things up. Yeah, you see some of my posts, you'd be like, this guy's a little out there. I think even for the anarchist community, some people, I make their stomachs churn a little bit with some of the stuff I get into. But yeah, it's fun. I think more people need to be like that, and kind of just put this controversial ideas out, because all it really does is, kind of change up the way you think about things. And, what's so bad about that? Every famous philosopher kind of said, like, hey, weighing ideas is a good thing. So,
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what progress is when people challenge what we already know and push the limits, and then you discover new things, right? And actually I was listening to Mark Passio's speech at Anarchapulco, one thing he said that kind of made me laugh was, he's like, "I am that asshole that will that will say uncomfortable things. I'm not going to, sugarcoat and tiptoe around the topic because it might offend you or, hurt your feelings." So, never expect that from me.
Yeah. No, that's one of the reasons I got into him, too. Like I said, so many, at this point, like this late in the game, I mean, basically half of everyone's money is taken, supposedly for the roads and all this. And, it's like, where's all this energy going?
Right.
Every single thing is taxed. All of our money is taken. Everybody just kind of just bends over and takes it. And that's why I like Mark, because he just gets out there and he starts just like going in and like yelling about it. It's just like, finally, somebody that's not politically correct and makes people like, I'm like, this is great. We need more people like this. So I kind of try to do the same thing from a more like comedic, sarcastic point of way, as opposed to, I guess angry might be the word or something.
Mark Passio, he's a little bit serious. He's a little bit serious compared to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I try to be more lighthearted in my approach, but kind of say virtually the same thing,
right?
So that's kind of my
Yeah, I think you do a good job of that. Comedy is something that's a useful tool, and I definitely utilize it as well to get information that might be a little bit difficult for people to process and register, but yeah, very useful. So yeah, before we get into that though, just please explain your path to anarchism and voluntarism, and what influenced you along the way, books, authors, and personalities like that.
Okay, yeah, sure. My story's a little more bizarre, probably, because I was never ever into politics. I believe I think Larken Rose coined this, but a default anarchist or something. Like I never believed in government. The reason that is at a very young age, I come from I guess you could say a poor family. Like the town I grew up in, it was a nice town, just outside of Queens and everything. But my father worked, like literally 70-something hours a week. My mother worked 2 and even 3 jobs at points. And there was just always this hustle and bustle for money and this constant stress. And as a very young child, like even, maybe like 7 or 8, I realized that we were always under duress. And it was just constant, like, we had to make money without money, and that's all they talked about or anything. And I just started to, like, at that point, like, I just realized, like, hey, it's not all sunshines and rainbows or however the quote goes. Like, things are a lot more difficult than it actually, like, looks on the outside. Bright, sunny day, everyone's stressed out from, what are we going to do? So that was one of the things. And then, between, like, movies and other influences, like, something when I was young that registered with me, as silly as this sounds, is have you ever seen the Japanese version of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Gojira, that heavy band is?
No, I haven't.
No?
Gojira, yeah. That's actually funny. Wait, so the word Godzilla is like phonetic for the way Japanese pronounce Godzilla?
No, the name Gojira, which is now like a heavy metal band that's pretty popular.
I see. Okay,
yeah. It's called Gojira. The American version of that is Godzilla.
I see.
Yeah. What's
funny.
Interesting though, and how it relates to this topic is if the 2 movies are actually very similar but also very different. Because the original Japanese one, we had occupied Japan at the time. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't want them to make a movie about like the destruction and the chaos that we caused during World War II when we dropped Little Boy and Fat Man on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Right.
So in America, they came and they cut the movie up and whatnot and kind of took out a lot of that, the negative idea of what America did. And I saw the Japanese one. And even at like 7 years old, it still conveyed that message that, war is bad and the governments aren't what they say they are. And, you watch the Japanese one, you see like little radiated kids like with their parents like melting, dying in hospitals. It's not what people think. When you think of the name Godzilla, it's not at all what the characters become. Kind of like any story of fiction, how it gets blown up over time. You watch that first movie, it's pretty dark. Yeah. So that was one of the ways. And then just like media and whatnot. I remember I got into Tupac when I was in my teens. And he spoke a lot about, the police corruption and what they do to the inner cities, how they would, specifically target those areas with like crack cocaine and like taught them how to cut it up and distribute it amongst those people to keep them in a state of slavery. So that opened my eyes to a bit. And then I found out about George Carlin, and he kind of just pushed me over the edge, like, yeah, this whole thing's a lie. This is all lying to you. Don't believe any of them. And I was like, this guy's right. He's totally right. They're all lying, and everyone's too dumb to see it. So that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, George Carlin, he must have been an anarchist. I mean, although he never actually said it, but the way he talked,
Oh, I could send you an interview.
Oh, did he? Oh, did he say? Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Oh, you better believe he said more than once. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. That makes sense then. Yeah, because so much of the stuff he said was spot on, and yeah, like he knew what was going on, and yeah,
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
smart guy. Yeah, he did. I saw some videos of him when I was a kid, and yeah, he did also influence me as well. And yeah, he's one of the greatest comedians. And you got into comedy a little bit. I got into comedy a little bit, and yeah, it's just he influenced so many people. And the guy had like such an unusually long lifespan in terms of his comedic career, like 50 years. Like the guy was so active. It's amazing.
Yeah, he just went till he was like he was 71. He was still doing stand up. Like I think like 3 months before he died, and because he was driven because he was trying to do the same thing that you're doing or I'm doing. Is basically wake up the people. He wasn't doing it just for laughs. He was trying to be like, hey guys, listen, I'm not joking. He's even said that on interviews. I've had people try to tell me like, oh, he was just joking. He didn't mean that. It's just like he said it himself. Like, why would I believe you over the guy himself? Like,
right.
No, I'm sorry. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's interesting the society that we live in when the comedians are speaking more truth than the economists and the politicians and or you can say even the philosophers, the modern philosophers. It's more the comedians that are like
seriously, and and that's not a joke. That's the funny part. It's listen, because no one will listen, which is part of the reason I've been doing what I've been doing. I've been running around for about 14 years now trying to wake people up. Like I'm like a newbie to like Facebook and the internet, but I've been on this tip for a long time, and I got to the point where just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to start posting my jokes with all of these themes in it. And I don't care what happens. You know what I mean? Like, shoot me. I don't care. I'm going to have a good time laughing my way out. I don't care. Fuck it. So that's kind of my mentality now.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, definitely in doing that, you inevitably plant seeds along the way of people, that become interested in what you're saying, even though maybe they won't come out and tell you that it was because of you, but just by you making those posts and making those videos, it influences people. It's inevitable. So
absolutely, and that's all that matters. Like I said, I'm not doing this for props or credit. It's nice when people say like, hey, like great job, that was funny or whatever.
Right.
But like I said, my main goal, at least with the videos I've been posting, is really just more geared towards trying to get people to think about things from a different point of view. Like I said, I see the looks I get sometimes from people when I bring up new ideas, whether it's about anarchy or just in general. Like you just see people have never even considered or entertained ideas like this before. And I just find that very strange because, I often think about all sorts of random things, what I would be doing if I was like floating in space or, I had maybe this or one of my personal favorites actually is, that black hole that Bugs Bunny had that he would carry with him.
Right.
He'd stick stuff in. I fantasize about having one of those all day. The people I would stick into this hole or just the trouble I'd get in. Man, I'd go to a buffet, you know what I mean? But, when you start bringing up ideas like no government, you literally, like, their eyes dilate and they start to sweat and they just, like, what, you think that? Like, where did you come up with those ideas? Which is actually the worst question they could possibly ask me because I could go and I start ramming on them and they're like, oh, okay, I've been trying to get people to live debate me on Facebook and nobody seems to want to. So I wonder why that is.
I see. So any books that you've read that really have sparked your intellectual curiosity?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. What's it called? I read Mass Control by Jim Keith, which I heard got him killed. I don't know if that's true or not. Mark actually brought that up in one of his last presentations. Most Dangerous Superstition, Larken Rose wrote, is hilarious. If you have not read that book, read it. Even if you're not an anarchist and have no interest in anarchy, just read it for the comedic parts of it. It's really funny. I was giggling the whole time I read this. Like, these people are stupid. But yeah, that was fantastic. Let's see. I read Michael Tessarion. I'm trying to think of the name. The name escapes me at the time. I read John Vibes, the trilogy that him and Derek Bros wrote. Those were really
the Conscious Resistance. Awesome.
Right, all three of them. Yeah. Nice. I forget which one's called which or whatever.
Right.
I did read them in order too.
Cool.
Yeah, those were good too. Catcher in the Rye is always a classic. That's usually the one all the assassins are holding after they allegedly, supposedly kill all these people, which I don't believe. But
really, I didn't know that. Yeah. Most Dangerous Superstition. Excellent book. That he really put things into perspective. Talking about history and just saying how so many people they they believe these things that they look at the newspaper. There's one quote I remember. We look at the newspaper and we're like, how can the world be so messed up? And it's the exact same mentality that most people have in their mind when they think of authority and they think of the state. And so that's one thing he really demolished, is the idea of authority being right, or might equals right, or the state, basically debunking the legitimacy of the state, right? And that's something that's that's something that's the first thing that a person needs to do on their way to understanding morality, is that realizing that, wait a minute, there's this enormous institution that every single day constantly is violating human rights, self-ownership, property rights, and yet for some reason everyone tends to think this is the exception. Everybody else needs to adhere to those basic principles, except this giant institution we call the state, for some reason.
And it's absolutely why we're all living in chaos. It's the number one reason. If you give me just like a moment, I don't mean you in general, I just mean people.
Right.
Like if you just give me a moment or two, I can actually explain how every single problem that exists stems from that institution. It's very easy to just boil everything back. Well, if they didn't have to do this or this or that. Yeah. But you're right. It's actually not even the government itself. It's the belief in authority.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
actually Larken. That rhymes. Larken explained that to me, because I was always just like, even I went to Ron Paul Fest back in 2012. And people would ask me, "What are you?" I'm like, I don't know. I just hate the government. I'm just against the government. I'm not down with anybody's clique or anyone's party. I just don't like the government. And then after hearing them explain that it's not even the government, it's this belief that we just have to blindly obey authority.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, so that's the very core and the very bottom.
Right.
People just believe that we have to do this just because someone else tells us, which really, when you think about it, well, why would that be? And then, you want me to explain this? And it's just like, well, I'm sure you know how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it is really amazing how the worst atrocities that people are afraid of that will happen if the state is not there have only occurred because people blindly obey people in authority without thinking, without considering, is this a moral thing that I'm doing, right? Well, if I wasn't acting on behalf of this institution, if I did this myself and I claim responsibility for this action, would I feel good after doing this? And for the most part, the answer is no. Yet they do it and they're like, well, I was just told, it was my job, I was ordered to do it, and they're able to kind of shirk off that responsibility. The appeal to authority, the belief in authority, is very dangerous. One of the most dangerous things that a person can hold in their mind. I love how Larken Rose focuses so much on that, because exactly. Larken's like the guy that's kind of like there at the line, at like that border in the front, like, this is what the problem is, you know what I mean? And once you understand that, like, he's that guy, like, right there in the front, and that's why he's so important. But once you get past that, which again I did from a very young age, like, they was like, oh, that's the problem, I'm with you. That's when, like I said, you get more into Marx stuff and like the deep-rooted psychological issues. Based on what you just said, actually, one of the reasons we have so many problems is that because people go against their conscience and their their voice internally, that's why we have, it bubbles up in your subconscious mind, and then people lash out in other ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of the reasons, like, for example, the highest rate in I believe brutality, police beating their wives or whatever you call it. I can't think of it. Domestic abuse, right?
Thank you, domestic abuse. Yeah,
right.
It's because they go against their conscience a lot, like doing certain things, and it festers up inside of them, and then it has to come out somewhere else.
Right.
People don't understand balance and how in life you need a certain balance, and if you go out of balance, you're going to try to make up for it another way.
Yeah.
And people don't seem to understand this, and that's kind of like why I'm attempting to do what I do, because I feel that I do understand this, and I don't violently beat people up in my spare time.
Yep, I'm very appreciative of that. And anybody
video games, but,
and video
games, war for that. not on the street. No, thank you. I'm very peaceful.
Yeah, actually, that's another interesting topic is video games. People blaming video games for violence in society. This is why people are violent, because they play violent video games, or even blame violent movies. Right? You know, this is why people
are around during World War II and one
exactly.
and the Crusades and the Inquisition in Northern Ireland and and all that. You know, it's the video games.
Yeah,
you know?
God of War was around back then. You know,
it had to be. Yeah, because you know everyone's always looking for a fucking excuse. You know, it's like it's not that. It's like maybe it's because nobody really knows what reality is, and we just have to blindly obey these institutions, do whatever they say, or we'll be like caged, kidnapped, or killed. Right. And maybe that festers up in people's minds, and they take out violence in other ways, like rape, murder, and you know, drug abuse and alcoholism, and which are really the same thing. Maybe that's why. You know, it's like, oh, Justin, you're just crazy. You're a dreamer, man. It's just like, no, I'm actually well read, and people don't take me seriously because I lift weights and wear necklaces like this. You know.
Right. So you mentioned Mark Passio and the occult. So please get into that and what that's all about and why you're interested in it.
Oh, well, for one, it's absolutely fascinating. Like I said, the first interview I heard him do, he wasn't into anything political, which is, again, kind of my thing. I'm not really – there is no political solution. There isn't. It's a spiritual problem. And the reason that we have a political problem is because we have a spiritual problem. But anyway, when I listened to his interview, like I said, he started talking about these things that I had known a bit about already, except when I listened to him, I wasn't one of these people that was, you know, had too big of an ego to be like – I was like, hey, this guy definitely knows more than I do. I'm going to listen to this guy. And then I started looking him up, and he had, 10-hour lectures and all sorts of, that guy's put together so much information, it's unreal. But, well, the occult, in a nutshell, I guess the best way to describe it is it's the study of, occult itself actually just means hidden. People think it means like devil worship or, you're into Satan, which I kind of play up a little bit. I'm not a Satanist or anything, but I think it's funny because people say that I look like the devil. So I'm like, oh, yeah, me and Lucifer go way back. Yeah, totally, which couldn't be further from the truth. Right. But occult, it comes from the term ocular, like occult, ocular. It means hidden from sight. That's it. And in a nutshell, it's the study of what you call the macrocosm, which is, the universe, what we're all experiencing, and the microcosm, the individual, how you apply to the universe, and it differs across scales. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, like the Fibonacci sequence and pi and phi and all that.
No, if you can explain. Please explain.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, so if you were to look at, let's say, the tip of your finger, right? You know how there's a spiral there? Okay. Like, if you look, it comes out, or like a seashell, right? Or if you look at flowers, you have that same spiral that comes out. And, I'm not going to get into the details because it gets a bit complicated. Right. But basically, everything in creation, I mean everything, comes out of this same pattern or whatnot. So if you were to take, let's say, a telescope or a really strong telescope and you look out into deep space, right? It looks virtually the same as if you take a microscope and you look when you look down at the smaller stuff in a microscope, you will see the same patterns repeating and repeating. So it's hard to explain, I guess, it quickly and whatnot. You have to look into it. There's a great video called Powers of 10. But basically, you get into quantum physics and stuff like that, and you just start to realize that nothing really makes any sense. And, I think the people in these institutions, like high government officials, the high end of the church and stuff, they know a lot more than they're like feeding out to the masses. Another thing with the occult, too, is the study of symbolism, which is probably my favorite area of that, because I find that stuff fascinating.
The study of symbolism. Can you go into that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll give you a better example. Okay. Yeah. So take, for example, right, just so you know, and this is something I didn't know until about 5 years ago or so, but the reason like every business has a logo, like virtually every business has a logo, is because symbols affect your subconscious mind, and they don't teach us this. For example, in advertising, they might kind of like, get into it a little bit or something, but I'll give you an example, a really good example, right? Okay, so what is, gasoline is what? Gasoline is energy, right? Where does everything on the planet get its energy from? We all get our energy from the sun. That's why there's life, right? Subconsciously, every living creature knows and understands this. It's not something you think about, but if the sun went out one day, me and you would probably be like, hey, Daniel, we should probably do something about this. So anyway, these billionaire motherfuckers that know all this and then harbor and hide all this knowledge from the general public, They know all this, right? So when you look at your gas stations, they hide solar symbolism in the gas stations. For example, look at mobile, right? The O in mobile is red, just the O. And your typical person that oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. It's like, oh, okay. Then you have, let's say, Shell, the Shell station, right? Shell uses yellow beams of light. Then you have Sun Oco.
Right.
Sun Oco. BP uses a sunflower. 76, that place uses a big red ball behind it. Kokono uses light rays. And that's why when you go to a gas station at the store, a lot of times it's called a Sun Mart. I mean, they don't sell the sun in there. You could maybe get some sunflower seeds in there. Right. But why would that be unless there's some truth in what I just said? And they don't teach us things like this. Because when you see that sun symbol, subconsciously, it like influences you to go and use that business. I'm not telling you that, like, you know, he's like, I need to go to Sunoco. But it implants the idea in your head. Right. Same thing with FedEx. If you look at the FedEx logo, in the negative space, there's an arrow between the E and the X. And when you see that subconsciously, it bangs you subconsciously, and you think, man, they're on the go. They're going the right way. I should give my package to them. And this stuff is used all around you. And virtually nobody I've ever spoke to, with the exception of a very few people, have any idea about this. And it makes you feel very alone.
Wow, very cool.
I'll give you more examples if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh, another one. This one from Mark I learned, right? Another one they explain is how words, and George Carlin gets into a lot of this too, but how words play on your psyche, right? And it's not an accident that these specific words are chosen. But like, you know that saying they say, like, time is money, right? It's a famous saying, right? Think about the language that they use when for these terms, right? Think about the language, right? During your free time, what do? You spend time doing things depending on what you pay attention to. What happens? Change occurs. Doesn't that make sense? You know, that's not an accident. It affects the flow of your psychology. Right. And people think it's like a joke. It's not a joke. Words have a lot of power. One of the best things George Carlin explained, I'd say, in his stand-up, if you actually watch the one on soft language, he explains how after the First World War, you know, when the soldier was suffering from something called shell shock, right? And he explains shell shock. It sounds like the guns cocking themselves. Yeah. Then after the next war, they changed it to battle fatigue, and he explains, like, shell shock, battle fatigue. Yeah. And then after that generation died off or whatever, then they changed it to operational exhaustion. And he says, like, sounds like something that might happen to your car. And then, by the end of it, it's called post-traumatic stress disorder, and the humanity is all taken out of it, and nobody gets their money anymore because of the sounds of the words and the syllables. Right. This is occult information. This is the type of stuff they don't want you to know about, so they can manipulate you. And then again, you say this to the average person, like, you're crazy, man. Like, who do you think you are with all your, you know, this is that, and I'm just trying to help, you know, have a good time, you know, and like I said, people they just fear what they don't understand, and then when somebody comes along and tries to explain this to them, they just kind of get butthurt, you know. Yeah, I think that's why Mark's pissed, you know. Right. To explain it to so many people, it's like at this point, I still have some, you know, some humor left in me though, so I'm trying to help.
Maybe he was a humorous guy when he was younger. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Actually, I was even going to make a joke about that. And I recently noticed that Friendly's, you know, the ice cream place, they adopted the sun. And I thought, you know, adopting the sun's a nice thing to do. But I'm pretty sure they adopted the sun from the sky. But in turn, that would just melt all of their ice cream, you know? So these are the weird things that I think about.
Yeah, I remember watching that video with George Carlin, the evolution of the PTSD descriptions. Yeah, you're so right about the power of words. You know, it's very subtle, but also very deep. The effect that it has on people's psyche, and people tend to underestimate that. And you know, it's funny when I tell people what I do. You know, I have this podcast and you know, YouTube channel, and we talk about various things, interview various people, and they're like, yeah, I mean, that's all well and good, but what are you actually doing? Like, all you're doing is talking. Right. So what are you actually doing? And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, like, well, every single action is preceded by a thought, right? Concepts, you know. If you want to change people's actions, you first have to appeal to their mind, their thoughts, you know, the concepts. So to me, that's vital. Like, people, you know, helping people understand what philosophy and morality and economics are. This kind of things are vital because
Yeah, I mean, I think about it like this: like that, whoever said that to you, they had to say it to you to make you think about that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You want, not to cut you off, but you want to hear a really good one real quick?
Go ahead.
One of my friends who I was trying to put this information onto, he really doesn't like this type of stuff, and I kept telling him about it. And one time he says to me, "I don't like people with firm convictions," and I just looked at him and I said, "Well, isn't that kind of a firm conviction?" And he didn't know what to say to me. It's just like, why nobody thinks? But yeah, sorry.
Or people who say, I don't like labels. I mean that to me that's a confusing concept, because it's like, well, I mean, we assign, like, you go into the dictionary, there's labels all over the place. There's words and they have definitions. Is that not a book of labels? Like how do you communicate to people without using words that define things and that are basically labels? We can't communicate.
Right. Emojis are coming back.
Maybe emojis.
Emojis are coming back. But to be honest with you, I'm actually kind of for, not that I use them, but like when they compare them to hieroglyphs, it's just like, maybe if we just spoke in hieroglyphs, people wouldn't be so dumb, because you have to use both hemispheres of your brain to understand and read hieroglyphs. So I'm actually not even against that. Like, as silly as it sounds, like, you want to use symbols? I'm all for it. Plus, I like to draw, so,
Yeah, now you got me thinking. How would we describe voluntarism with emojis? I'm trying to think about that.
maybe someone like this, That's it,
Right, or maybe I use the peace sign a lot. I don't know. That's,
you have like a cop with a stick running away from someone like this, like,
Yeah, but I find those kind of arguments very strange. It's like this is exactly how we progress as a society. How we, how new ways of thinking emerge is by people challenging with words, with concepts,
right.
challenge the prevailing dogma. Right, and basically dogma would be defined as people believing a particular ideology without understanding why. They just believe it because they believe it, And
because their mommy told them.
Yeah, because anybody in authority told them, your teacher, the politician, or your parents, and that's that's not really the foundation of a truly aware and civilized society, right? We need a society of people that don't depend on either books or politicians to make their decisions for them, but rather are well equipped with a sense of morality that they can learn to make decisions for themselves of what's right, what's wrong. And amazingly enough, I think that in itself would put an end to so much conflict.
Right. That's what the government's job is there to do. The government, from, I guess you could say, like, the occult perspective or whatever, the government's really there to keep everyone running and operating from the reptile part of the brain. That's why when you look on television, all it is sex and partying and hedonistic type of stuff,
right.
Because they keep everybody in that part of the brain because that's the easiest way to control people when they're just fight or flight, kill or be killed, sex, I got to eat this is going to be a good time.
Right.
They don't want people like me or you sitting around thinking about, like, hey, why is this? Or, like one of my, like, why are crossing guards always old ladies when old ladies need the most help across the street? Or, like, I start, like, thinking about dumb stuff, It's like, why is this or that? And then when you do that and you sit around enough and you let your brain balance back out, you realize, like, this whole thing is just a lie. And they're just keeping everyone in a perpetual loop in order so they don't have time to sit there and figure it all out. I just want to sit under a tree and think about stuff. I'm not interested in all this kind of nonsense. But that's what they do. They keep everyone stuck in the R complex of the brain. That way the neurons don't fire up to the high brain. And because when that happens, you realize, like, hey, I'm my own sovereign individual. I don't need anyone telling me what to do. I understand. And, they can't have that, or it's game over for them.
Right. So given your understanding of anarchism and the occult, let me just ask you one question. How high do you think Trump should build the wall to?
Well, actually, something I thought a while ago. I don't remember if I have this perfectly in my head anymore. But what I was actually hoping was that instead of Trump building the wall, I imagined him one night during, like, a purple lightning storm from the top of Trump Tower, sending and blowing up Mexico. And what I was hoping what would happen is something in the Gulf there would actually bubble up, and we out of the bay would become like a Mexican Godzilla. It was just a little bit shorter than the normal Godzilla, and plow through Mexico, go all the way to Nevada, stomping out Trump Tower along the way, creating jobs for more of the immigrants. It was something like that. I don't remember exactly how it went, but something like that.
Yeah, nice. So actually, let me ask you on this topic. What do you think of so-called anarchists, Trump supporting anarchists?
Well, okay, so I'm actually pretty open about this because like now, I'll say this much: I hate liberals. I hate them. Like they drive me nuts with their collectivism, and they don't even understand why they're evil. That's the problem. See,
Right.
I get Republicans know why they're evil. They're generally racist. Now, again, not all of them. I know people that are Republicans that aren't lightweight, but in general, they're generally racist people that want to keep everything the same.
Right.
Liberals, on the other hand, they just want to help everyone, but they want more money to do it, and they don't give. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the thing, because of their collectivist ideology and think that you owe them something. So I'm sorry. Back to the Trump thing. They just get crazy about Trump. I don't actually hate Donald Trump the way most people do. I don't think he's really helping either. I don't pay too much attention, and I do find him remotely entertaining. But the way they make him sound like he's this evil antichrist, evil, vile, sick, it seems like business as usual to me.
Right.
I'll give you even a great point. One of my really good friends is a lawyer, right? And this guy hates Donald Trump more than you could believe. He hates this guy. He hates him, posts about him all the time. And he actually, he was trying to convince me that Donald Trump is the Antichrist. He actually thinks he's the Antichrist. So in the midst of him trying to convince me of this, he said to me, Justin, Donald Trump's CIA pick wants Edward Snowden dead. And I said to him, I'm like, I know. And I looked at him, I go, but all the CIA wants Edward Snowden dead, not just Donald Trump's pick. And this lawyer goes, all right, good point. And I'm just like a street guy. Like everybody's got their agenda they're trying to fit. I'm out here just trying to be honest. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. Right. I am an anarchist, but I don't even you know what I mean? I just think people are stupid. That's my whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can say in a sense he's done a service in the sense that he was really pissed off a lot of liberals, and that definitely makes a lot of anarchists happy. Because
sure.
Certainly the anarchists have not pissed off the liberals, but Trump has.
Like you wouldn't believe. It's really funny. I didn't know how bad they were until Donald Trump got into office.
Right.
And then it really came out. One thing I'd just like to mention real quick, just so people do hear it though. One thing I do like about Donald Trump, even though he did nothing about this, is while he was running for election or whatever it was, he brought up about how Bush had something to do with 9/11. And of course that just kind of just went under the rug and everything like that. But I always love bringing that up to Trump supporters, like, hey, remember when your boy brought up how 9/11 was a lie? Like that might be kind of important given the state of everything that we've based all of our laws on since 9/11.
Right.
So that's always fun.
Yeah. I'm kind of like you, where I don't really pay attention, to what Trump says, or what laws are passed, or what taxes are passed. I mean, it's just it's political theater. I don't think that it really affects us in the grand scheme of things, and I don't think we need to pay attention. And you know what? The more people don't pay attention, I think that's kind of the best way. That's my goal with this channel, is like, when I tell people the name of this channel, they get confused, like peaceful anarchism. That sounds like an oxymoron. How can you put those two together? So basically my goal with this channel is just basically education, right? Teaching people about philosophy, economics, morality, voluntarism, anarchism, capitalism, free markets, all that kind of stuff. Thank you. And so my goal is to basically just get rid of government the same way we got Blockbuster was gotten rid of,
just make it obsolete.
Right,
absolutely.
Make it obsolete. Just
right.
Phase it out, because nobody cares. And that's my goal, to show people that yes, actually the vast majority of your life is anarchic. You make most of the decisions in your life not because someone told you to make them, but because you voluntarily chose. And the vast majority of your life is like that, but there is a small minority of your life that is forced and controlled and regulated. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna make the point. You're absolutely right. Like, for example, when you let's say get together with a woman, it's voluntary, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's the government that's rape. You know what I mean? The government's there raping everyone. And where the anarchist version of that would be, hey, want to hang out with me? Would you like to go out on a date?
Right.
Government would be the ones raping. You know what I mean? Like, come here, I'm gonna up against a tree or something like that. Like, that's actually the difference. And again, this isn't my opinion. Like, this is really how it is. It's just that's it. It's as simple as that.
And the problem is people don't associate the state with violence, and so when people advocate, I was some of my family actually supports. This is kind of illustrative of my family. They support the straw ban, the ban on straws in California.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah. So I'm like, I had to control myself to not like lash out. I'm sure if that was you, you would have probably lashed out, but I didn't because my wife. I told my wife in the car, like, you noticed that I held back, right? She's like, I noticed. Thank you very much. Because really? I'm like, yeah, I just didn't because I know, like, most of my families are liberal and just hardcore like Bernie supporter / socialist type people. Yeah. And they mean well, of course, but they just don't see the violence, right? They don't see it's coercion. And I was telling my wife in the car, like, what really gets me is that if I were to, most people who advocate for, a new law or new tax, they're cowards. That's kind of how I look at them, because you tell them, okay, let's say you ban on straws, right? Now, let's say a company wants to use straws, and let's say you can't advocate for a politician to do that for you or police to enforce that law. Are you yourself going to go to that company and force them to stop using straws? Would you, like, hit the business owner over the head, force him, take away all the straws and burn? What are you going to do? Is that justified? Does that seem right to you? Because they say that these straws hurt the local wildlife. Like, are you willing to violate this person's, freedom? Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's so maddening. Like, people just don't seem to understand what government is, and that's why, like, guys like me and you, like, try to explain these things. Like, one of the points that was brought up to me that I love using now is the whole idea that, like, voting, at least for political office, not, if you like vanilla or chocolate better or whatever, but when you vote for a political candidate, that's immoral, and that's not an opinion. Like, you can prove that. Like, the fact of the matter is that, if me and my neighbor, let's say we disagree over some money that they want to use for, like, a school or something like that, I'm not going to go to his door and kick his door in and, like, steal his money with a gun, or he's not going to do that to me. We get along just great, but he's going to go put his vote in a ballot somewhere and have other people do it for him, which is totally immoral. It's like hiring a hitman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess you hiring a hitman to kill someone is a little less immoral, but it's still totally immoral anyway. Like, why would you do that? Like, we can't. That's my whole thing all the time. I always just say, can't we just do things differently? Is it really that much to ask to just consider other options? Right. And one of the occult things too is just in general is that they completely shut down everyone's imagination. People have no imagination anymore, which is why I write all these jokes. People ask me, like, where did he come up with all this stuff? Because I'm all day. I'm just getting warmed up. I come up with stuff, like you wouldn't believe. And it's because I just think about stuff. I don't watch TV. Right. I don't, if I go for a walk, I don't put headphones on. I'll just wander around and I'll just think. And, everybody's so busy with the radio on and the television, they don't just have time to just sit there and just be like, what the hell's going on, man? I just want to sit under a tree, man. That's it. I always owe somebody money, or I have to do this, or there's just always something going on. Right. To just like, what's the solve? What's the point? Nobody does it. No one does it. And now we have laws banning straws because people don't do these things. It's just like, really? Straws? I get when people get bent out of shape about rape and eugenics and stuff.
Right. But straws.
Really, guys? Like, really? Have things gotten that bad that, got to get rid of those straws, my, sea turtle somewhere, actually, I had a tortoise one time. It actually swallowed a Nerf dart whole and shit that thing out when I was a kid. So, and that's about 5-10 times thicker than a straw. So,
Yeah. My favorite meme I saw was, you see a table with, like, lines of cocaine, something like that, and then a razor blade. Did you see that one? It's so funny, the razor blade, and you see the straws. It's like, quick, the cops! Quick, hide the straws!
Yeah, I saw that. Was cool. I love memes. I love these things. Awesome. Memes are great. It's just funny, man. But yeah, it just doesn't seem that people have critical thinking skills, right. Which is why, like I said, if anybody watches my jokes and like if you really sit there and like comb over them, like there's like jokes like hidden in jokes in some of these things. Yeah. Because I just want people to start using their brain more. And I know I might come off like an arrogant prick or like, who do you think you are to say that? I'm just like, I'm just somebody that thinks about stuff. Right. That's it. I don't think I'm cool. I don't think I'm a tough guy. I don't think I'm anything. I just want to hang out, be peaceful, right. And just laugh, and that's it. Because life is depressing.
Yeah, you got to get a laugh out of it. I mean, what was it? I think it was Oscar Wilde. He said, "If you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh, or else they'll kill you." Right?
Otherwise, they'll kill you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes, and that's why I do what I do. Yeah. whether they laugh or not, they still probably want to kill me.
They still probably want to kill you.
You know what's actually, want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
I actually thought, I already have the material easily from multiple albums, but if I ever get like my first album cover, what I decided recently I was going to do is, you know, the typical standard idea of where you have like a mob of people chasing someone, you know, like chasing some guy, or like he's strung up on like a, you know, like hung by a noose. Okay. I was going to do the reverse, where it was going to be me with a pitchfork and a torch chasing all the townspeople back into their homes, like yelling about this type of stuff, because that's kind of how it's been for the past 14 years of my life, where it's like, guys, hey, you know, pay attention. You know, we're like, I've been right about all of these things, and it's not about me being right. My ego, that we could, if we just looked into this, we wouldn't have these problems. Right. And it was, oh, Justin, oh, you're just, that's that crazy conspiracy stuff. And I'm just like, hey, ever notice conspiracy theorist and critical thinker have the same initials? Just saying, you know.
That's funny. I never thought of that. So let me ask you: when you meet somebody new, what's your way of introducing these topics, and like how do you go about explaining? I'm just curious.
Oh, I'm terrible, actually. I regularly walk up to strangers. I walk up to hot chicks. I actually walked up to some gorgeous girl one time in a gym and told her that whole, I broke down that whole thing about the symbolism with the sun and stuff.
Yeah.
I just went right up to her, told her that, and I just walked away from her. I just never, so it was just like, I didn't try to get her number or anything like that. I was like, hey, by the way, did you know about this? I love messing with people. I have a blast. I try to do what Adam Kokesh does, but like without, like, I don't videotape it or anything.
Oh, I gotta videotape it.
I should, yeah. I'll just walk up to strangers and start. I'll be like, hey, you ever, you know, think that they might be lying to us about stuff? I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, you know, the whole thing, like, well, this, all big lie, you know? And be like, well, what do you mean? And I'll get into it that way, because people, I don't come off like mean. People like find me amusing, generally speaking. So I kind of have that niche where it's like I don't make them too uncomfortable, but they'll leave. Whether was he serious or was he joking, and I'll leave them thinking about and I'll tell them a few jokes in the midst of it, so they don't like get too defensive or anything. So that's kind of my approach.
So all right. So let me ask you: aside from George Carlin, who is your favorite comedians?
Well, to be honest with you, I actually don't even like comedy really too much.
Really?
Whoa. No, not really. I watched the stand-up that you did. I remember that Transylvania joke was really good.
Oh, yeah.
No, I do watch some, but I'm not big into stand-up comedy. You know, I love Bill Hicks, Doug Stanhope's great too.
Yeah.
But if you notice, they're guys that are just trying to be honest. Like most comedy to me, it's you some guy got some guy on stage talking about he's at Starbucks and he's got a scarf on. He saw a pretty girl and she brought like a Rice Krispie treat and that was sweet and so was she, or some soft. Hey, I don't like all the soft shit. Like I'm not like a tough guy. I don't mean like I'm looking around to beat people up.
Right.
But it's just the ideas that people aren't willing to entertain. Like darker, like harder concepts and stuff, and it's just kind of like harder things. Like you want to hear like a premise that I thought of recently?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, basically, in a nutshell, I've been attacking the LGBT recently, which is very, very controversial. Now, I'm totally in favor of all transgender people and all gay people and whatever you want to do. No problem. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is the fact that they're putting forth legislation trying to silence the First Amendment and like make you say things. And if you study history, humanity's fought a really long time in order to have the ability to say whatever we want without getting gutted. And I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to let that go without a fight. So a premise that I had recently that I haven't used yet, I was thinking it's just like like the LGBT flag and everything. I was thinking, what's it called? Imagine you had a bunch of Skittles in your hand. If I took those Skittles and I identified them as M&Ms, would you still be able to taste the rainbow? As the flag and everything. I'm a dick. That's the problem. Like, I'm a dick.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. I'm an idea guy. Like, I wouldn't claim to be a stand-up. I'm learning, but I come up with ideas like you wouldn't believe.
That's cool. Yeah. When I was doing stand-up, I was mostly talking about, like my family, my wife, my kids, my dog.
I don't have any of that
my
stuff.
profession. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was into that time. And, then I got into all this stuff, voluntarism, anarchy, and capitalism. So I really have no idea where my comedy would have evolved had I continued. I wonder. I don't know. It would be cool. There's not too many
ideas down, man. That's all you got to do. Just put all I do. Like I wouldn't claim to be anything, but I could probably stand for 8 hours straight and just run off idea after idea.
Right.
I just jot them down, and if I have an idea, I'll just put it in like my notepad on my phone or something like that, and I'll let it sit for a while, and then I'll comb back over it later. I'll be like, oh, that was a good idea. Like, oh, that was kind of funny. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you want another quick premise I'm going to do soon was
Sure.
just, I know this guy, he's a CO, really nice guy. He comes to my house sometimes. He's always busting my chops about, my place isn't like pristine or, it's like a mess or something like that. And, he's always bitching at me about this. It's like, dude, you work in a jail. What are you concerned about, like a fruit fly by my sink? Like, you work in a prison, man. He's, God forbid there's like a splash of orange juice on my door handle. Meanwhile, he's got his flashlight. He's up in some guy's asshole. Just, you missed the spot. And, it's just why is it, what's wrong with everyone, Maybe I'm a bad person. I don't rule that out. It's possible I'm evil. I might be, I don't know. I just have a lot of questions nobody wants to answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, just keep jotting it down, bro. Like you said, like if you ever want to sit down and work something out, I love coming up with ideas. I love it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I am constantly thinking of jokes. So that's just how my mind is. I'm always thinking about jokes. Like after you do comedy, it's like it's hard to turn that off. I just think I just think like when I say something like if I perform that would probably be funny.
Yeah, no, just put them down, man. Just keep putting them down. That's what I do. I remember when I first people have told me that I should have been a comedian since I was like 17. That's actually part of my like intro to like the 5 minutes I was doing. Two things two things I've heard since I was 17 is you should be a comedian and please step out of the car. So I'm trying to go a new route, So I only started jotting ideas down about like 5 years ago, but I have so much. I have more unreleased material than Tupac. I'll put it to you like that. So if they do kill me, expect me to be around for a while after.
The posthumous material will be going on
exactly.
for long after.
Man, I like the stand-up you did. Honestly, I'm not just saying that either. Like it was funny, and I'm not really into like normal stand-up type of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I just did it for a year, right before my wife gave birth to our second child, and I really had fun with it in Manhattan. Got great audiences. Wonderful energy, especially on a Friday night or a Saturday night. Those people are ready to have fun.
Right. That it all depends on that too. Yeah, I've done maybe like 12 to 14 stand-ups now, and I've generally done really good actually. I'd say about 80-85% of the times I did well. The problem is it's so time consuming. If you're lucky if you get like 2.5, 3 minutes in the city. And I'll leave my house at 5 o'clock. By the time I get home, it's 11 o'clock. Yeah. I got stuff to do. I got time for this.
Yeah.
So that's another reason I've been uploading stuff online, just to I figure somebody will see it. Some of my videos got thousands of views, so people see me.
Yeah.
I'm sure the wrong people see me too, but hey, maybe they're enjoying the show. Hey guys, it's me again.
Yeah, that also brings up another interesting idea where people, they self-censor. They don't post things. They don't say things because they're afraid. The state's watching, right? And agents of the government are watching, and what are they going to think? They're going to think I'm a menace to society or a threat or something like that. But I like Larken Rose's argument, which is like, we want them to watch. Those are the people that we want to watch our argument. Hopefully, we're going to change their minds, and
maybe they'll learn something.
Right? Exactly.
Like I said, I'm just putting on a show at this point. You know what I mean? At the very most, I can't imagine they hate me that much. You know what I mean? Just like, well, he is evil, but he's remotely entertaining. Or at least,
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at my podcast and my videos, it's kind of like a snapshot of my thoughts, and I love that for my kids, in the future, my kids will be able to know, what did my dad think about this, and what were his true ideas? So, you can write things down.
Pride.
Take it.
Not to cut you off, but I just like maybe the kids, like once they become more cognized or whatever, they'll be like, "Hey, my dad really tried to do the right thing." Where a lot of people's kids aren't going to be able to say that about their parents. So kudos to you for that.
Right.
It takes a lot of balls to do what you do. So much respect to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to find fascinating people, and sometimes they find me, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of. I really enjoyed the people. The people I've talked to is like I realized that I would not have had a reason to talk to these people if I didn't have a podcast or didn't have a channel, and so it really provided me with that amazing opportunity. So it's really cool, and I'm gonna be doing it as long as I can. Who knows? But I've had
you're doing a great job, man. Like I said, like you're one of my favorite people to watch, and you're consistent too. Like even myself, I started doing a couple like talks with people and everything. But like I said, I'm not like on top of it. Like you're on top of it. That's why, like I said, I mentioned you to Mark and everything because you're doing your thing, man.
Yeah, Thank you. I appreciate that. And
sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're you've hung out with a lot of awesome people, and you also went to Anarchapulco, right, this year?
I did. It was
and how was that?
Great. Oh, it was a blast. Actually, I had a blast. I'll tell you though, the vegans were kind of looking at me like a Tyrannosaurus though. Like I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure at one point when I walked by a group of vegans, like their cup was like trembling with like the GMO-free mixed drink. You know what I mean? And walked by like, who's this guy? You know. But it was a good time. I had a lot of fun. You know, it was cool. I got out with Larken, hung out with Mark, Adam Kokesh, and a whole plethora of other great people. Max Egan was there. Yeah. He's another one actually. I always forget to mention him. You ever want to listen to Max Egan? That guy is fantastic. He's so interesting to listen to. But yeah, you know what? He just doesn't put I don't see his face a lot on Facebook. Like he just does the video chats and everything. So, but he's another great person to check out if you haven't. But yeah, no, Anarchapulco was great, man. It was just, you saw so many different walks of life and different people from all over, and everyone was fine. There were no fights, no violence. Everything was great, and there was no government, or there was just no one overwatching anything. And all those anarchists, I think there was like 1,600 anarchists there with no problems, nothing.
Peaceful anarchism. It's amazing, huh? It actually it exists.
No, yeah, dude, come next year. I'm definitely gonna go back. It was a blast. I had a really good time. I might not go for. I think I went for 7 days. I might go for maybe 5, just because you have been gone for that long,
Yeah.
No, I had a blast. Absolutely. And they were really nice about it too. I didn't even get a ticket. They had sold out. And they still let me go into some of the stuff. And I even offered to give them money. They're like, don't even worry about it. Like, we're just trying to spread the message and everything.
Wow, that's cool.
It was a blast. It was a really good time. I totally recommend everyone should go to that. Sure.
Oh, yeah, I would love to go to that. I mean, it's hard for us to leave because we have our our own restrictions, and we're doing the homeschooling thing, and so it's rough. It's rough because if I would feel bad going. My wife would want to go, but then it's a long trip, and so it's just tough for us. But that's awesome,
I understand. Like you said, I don't have any children or any responsibility like that. I just went there to stir things up. Like help people out and everything. So, but it was a really good time. Everybody was really cool and whatnot. I met a lot of great people that I interact with now on the internet.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like I said, just all different walks of life and everything. So it was definitely a good time.
Yeah, I mean it's so encouraging and inspiring to see, more and more anarchists, more and more voluntarists popping up in various countries. Not necessarily just the United States, but all over Cuba and
came from all over the world. Actually,
yeah, everywhere. Like Pakistan, like you see group. I see groups on Facebook like voluntarist groups like Pakistani voluntarists, Indian voluntarists, Cuban. There's one guy in Cuba that I interviewed. It's like cool. Like damn, it's getting all over Brazil also.
Yeah, it's been like doubling every year, the turnout supposedly too. I think there was like 200 or 300 persons. Then it was like 600, then 8, and like 16. So yeah, like the governments of the world are in trouble. Not just this one. Like people are slowly waking up. We might not see it in our lifetime, but it's coming. And I figure I'll try to dent the machine myself, just with jokes and whatever else may be.
Exactly.
Like just hammering away that silly belief in authority that your mom told you. That's it. That's all it comes down to is your mommy told you with all of this stuff. Where'd you learn everything? Your mom. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe your mom wasn't right about everything. I know mine wasn't right about everything.
Right.
So, that's kind of how I view it.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm kind of like you in the sense that like everyone's so serious about what we got to pass a law, we got to do this, and I'm with you on the side, just making jokes,
really?
passing the time, and just having fun.
Like really, you think that's gonna help? So you're gonna make it. It's like the crime rate's gone up, and it's just like, well, yeah, because you keep passing laws. If you didn't keep passing laws on straws, maybe the crime rate wouldn't go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nobody thinks, like I say, there's no critical thought anymore. It's really annoying for me. Because I shouldn't be able to think critically when you look at me, but apparently, the people I'm surrounded by, it's like, are these people sitting,
Yeah, I'll be making jokes and playing chess because that's one of my favorite things to do. I'm a chess player and nice and peaceful. I'm happy anywhere I go as long as I have my chess set. I'm a happy man.
You might have to teach me. Actually, I never learned how to play chess, but I used to play a lot of Street Fighter, and they say they're very similar. So I actually might be decent at it if I learn how to play. Maybe you give me a lesson one of these days.
You mean like the Street Fighter, like the modern one, the Street Fighter 4 and 5? You do those?
Oh, bro, you have no idea. I'll put it to you like this, without getting too into it, because I never really took the competition seriously.
Oh,
but I've beaten some of the best Street Fighter players on earth. Yeah,
Ooh,
I beat one of the number 2 guys in the United States. He beat me too, but I actually was able to play on that level. If I'm famous for anything like around my way, people know not to. I'm good at fighting games. Yeah, you wouldn't be. You could
Nice.
probably even put my name in and find some of my old matches and stuff. But yeah,
Or on YouTube, you mean?
yeah, somewhere like yeah, or Google or something like that. Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I still have some saved somewhere or whatever. But yeah, it would actually blow your mind. It's like just like really, it's like yeah, for some reason.
And who's your character that you use? Who's your favorite?
Well, it depends what game it is, and I generally can actually play as anybody, but I like demons, so I went with Akuma. Basically the darkness,
Right.
with your fireball heat. You know what I'm saying? And just if you think I'm joking, like one of my favorite combos was like ducking short, standing fierce, quarter circle forward, fierce, focus cancel, forward, ducking medium, quarter circle back, ducking medium, dragon punch. Yeah, so yeah, I'm not kidding. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll have to check. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I was big into Street Fighter. I got a little bit into Street Fighter 4, but Street Fighter 5, I didn't really get much.
I didn't even play 5. I retired until I do something with comedy. I've never even touched 5.
Oh.
4, I was beast at though. I love.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah.
I'll never forget it's Vanilla Sagat though. He was awful in the first version of Street Fighter 4. Sagat was so strong.
Oh, really? Interesting. All right, cool. I'll have to look into that. That's pretty cool. So awesome conversation, Justin. So before we go, I always ask favorite quote of all time. What would you say?
I think of all time, I say it's funny. Don't ever tell anybody anything. If you do, you start missing everybody. From The Catcher in the Rye, J.D. Salinger. It's the last passage in the book.
Say again. If you don't. So say
it's
again.
funny. Don't ever tell anybody anything. If you do, you start missing everybody. And that's what the kid said when he was locked up in a mental asylum at the end of the book. I always liked it. It was interesting. But when I was a kid, I used to read the last page of a book for some reason first. And
I did that too. That's funny.
I don't know why. You didn't get the ending out of it. I was just like, I don't know. I'm just weird.
I know. I just want like the last few sentences. Like I just want to know how this ends.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is.
That's funny. Awesome. Cool. Actually, I don't even know if I read that book. I might not have.
Oh, bro, that's the one they put in the hands of all the assassins. All the guys that supposedly killed, like John Wilkes Booth, Lee Harvey Oswald, Mark David Cho, or maybe not him, whatever. But they had a copy of that book with them because it's about in the 1940s and 50s. People were questioning like, hey, why is everybody so obsessed with football? Or how come this is like this? And they didn't want people reading stuff like that. So they're like, oh, yeah, the guy that killed Kennedy, yeah, he liked that book too. It's a really good book. I mean, it's not really very controversial now, but in like the 1950s, like people did not think like how that book is written. I'll put it that way. But it's an interesting book.
All right. Very cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, great talking to you, Justin. Really appreciate it. Hopefully people can, check you out on Facebook and YouTube, and I hope you keep up the videos because I think they're making a lot of people think and uncomfortable, and then we need that.
Thanks so much, brother. I always appreciate it. Yeah, great interview. Thank you so much.
No problem. So this is Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network on theconsciousresistance.com and solpodcast.org. Wishing all of you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this content and would like to see more of it, please feel free to donate and help me interview other fascinating people. You can do so through Patreon. That's patreon.com/peacefulanarchism to help me out. $1 a show is all I ask. If you feel so inclined to donate more, please feel free. It will only assist me in spreading the message of freedom and voluntarism that much farther and that much more efficiently. You can also donate to my Bitcoin. My Bitcoin address is in the description to my videos as well as on my website, peacefulanarchism.com. And while you're on my site, there's a donate button to donate through PayPal. If you prefer to donate through PayPal, you can do so with that. But Patreon is a little bit easier for content creators as you can set up a recurring donation if you so desire. Also, while you're on my website, peacefulanarchism.com, please feel free to sign up, enter your email address, sign up for my newsletter, and you'll receive updates every time I post something, a video or an interview. I do not send out any spam. Or you can also follow me on Facebook under facebook.com/peacefulanarchism or facebook.com/Danilo Cuellar 3, I believe. Danilo Cuellar 3. So either one of those methods, if you are able to donate, I would be most appreciative. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a magnificent day.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.